In this tutorial, I'll walk you through every step I use to create this cauldron. Let's go. Press Shift A and add a UV sphere. Press Tab to go into edit mode, press S and Z and scale it down a tiny bit on the Z axis. Select the top third, press O to activate proportional editing, press G and Z and then move it down a tiny bit. Press 3 to go into face select to click the icon here. Select the top faces, go to select, select more or less, select more and then press Shift R twice and then press X and F to delete the faces. Press A and then E and right click. Then press O to deactivate proportional editing and then S and scale it down. Maybe something like that. Then press 1 on your numpad or tilde key to open your view menu and go into front view. Press Z and toggle X-ray. And then with the inside still selected, press G and Z and move it up so it's even with the top of the outside. And then press 1 or the icon here to go into vert select. Select all the top vertices and press G, Z and 0 to even them out. And then we can press Set and deactivate toggle X-ray. And then go back into face select and then press E and extrude up. And then with Control R, we'll add a loop cut and move it down a tiny bit. And then go into face select and with Alt select the whole ring. And then press Alt E and extrude faces along normals. And then we'll extrude them out a tiny bit. That's the shape of our cauldron. We'll go into the Modifies tab and then go to Bevel, add 4 segments. And then we can decrease the bevel a tiny bit, maybe to something 0.6. And then press Ctrl 2 to add a subdivision, right click, Shade Auto Smooth. Then now we'll go into Edit, go to Preferences, and in the Add-ons tab, search for Cell. And there should be something called Object Cell Fracture. Make sure that's activated. And then when that is activated, we can select our cauldron. And then we'll go into Object, Quick Effects, Cell Fracture. In this menu, the only thing we'll change is the source limit. You can change it to anything between 10 to 15. I'll change it to 12. And then just press OK. And then we'll get some fractures in our cauldron. And right here in the top is our original object. So we can select that and we can hide it for now. Then we'll select all the fractures and then press period key and change to individual origins and then press S and hold shift and scale it down just a tiny bit so the fractures are a bit deeper. I like how that looks. Okay. Then we can unhide our sphere, select it, press tab to go into edit mode, and then we'll add a loop cut in the middle one and then right click to confirm. Go into face select and then with Alt and Shift select these 3 and then we'll press Shift D to duplicate, right click to confirm and then press P and separate by selection. Press tab to leave edit mode and then we can hide our original sphere again. Now we can select the new ring, press tab to go into edit mode, A to select all, E to extrude, right click to confirm and then press S and Shift Z and we'll scale it up. Like that, and then press A to select all, S and Shift Z, and then we'll scale it down a tiny bit so it goes into the cauldron. There. Yeah, that looks nice. Okay, then we'll start adding the handles. So we'll go back into front view, and then Shift A and we'll add a cube. We move it a bit to the right, press period key and change it back to median point. Tab to go into edit mode and then scale it down. And we want to scale it down so it just about fits on the ring. There, maybe a tiny bit smaller. Yeah, that looks great. And then press S and X and we'll scale it up a bit in the X-axis and then S and Y and we'll scale it down a bit in the Y. There, that will do for now. Then in edit mode, go to edge select and then select these 2 edges and then we'll go into front view and then we'll press Ctrl B to bevel them and then use your mouse wheel to add some more bevels and then we'll make it look nice and round. Okay, tab to leave edit mode and then G and X and we'll move it in. there. And then we'll add a bevel modifier. We'll change the segments to 4 and we'll decrease the bevel to maybe 0.025. Right click, shade smooth, and we can add a subdivision modifier with Control 2 as well. That looks pretty nice. GX, I'm gonna move it out a tiny bit more. Okay, Shift A, curve, and we'll add a circle. And then we'll go into our data, G and X to move it to the side. And then we'll S, scale it down. And then we'll go to the geometry tab here. And then we'll increase the depth. There. And then we'll scale it down a tiny bit, go into front view, place it there. Maybe we can scale it up a tiny bit more, increase the depth some more. I mean, you can make this any size you want. I kind of like it's a bit bigger. And then press Ctrl 2 to add a subdivision, and then we'll there, and then R to rotate it, and then G and move it into position. I think it's a tiny bit too big. I'm gonna scale it down just a tiny bit, and then place it back. And then I can also move this a bit in there. Yeah, I think that looks awesome. Okay, then we'll select this object, go into modifiers tab, and then we'll add a mirror modifier. And then our mirror object is going to be the ring. And then we'll do the same for our ring, add a mirror object is gonna be there. So now we'll have it at both sides. Perfect. Okay, press Shift A, add a plane, and we'll create the feet. Go tab to go into edit mode, and then scale it down. Go into front view, and then we'll extrude it up, and then rotate it a tiny bit and scale it up. And then we'll extrude it some more, and we'll scale it down. Tab to leave edit mode, Control 2, and add a subdivision modifier. Go back into edit mode, go into face select. Select the bottom face, press I to inset, and then G and Z to move it down. And then we'll do the same with the top face. I to inset. And then with Control R, we'll add a loop cut there, and we'll add a loop cut there. There we go. Go back into front view, right click, shade smooth. And then we'll place it in position. And now we can change the sizing a tiny bit. Make it just the way we like it. And I'll place it there. Yeah, that looks nice. Okay, then press period and change your pivot point to 3D cursor. And then we'll press Alt D, R, Z90 to make a link duplicate, and we rotate it, and then Shift R twice to redo our last action. Then we select Alt V and we press RZ45 to have them there. Yeah, that's perfect. Okay. Then we'll press Shift A, mesh, and we'll add a circle, move it up, go into edit mode, scale it down. Oh, period, to change the pivot point back to median point. There we go. And then G and Z, and we'll move it in position. Go into edit mode, and then go to face grid fill, and then right click and press subdivide once. And GZ and move it down a bit. And in edit mode, go into verge select, press O to activate proportional editing, and then just select a few verges and move them up and down a bit with G and Z, and then decrease the proportional editing just to make it look a bit more wavy and liquidy. There, and move that one up. There. Okay, leave edit mode, press Ctrl 2 to subdivide, and then right click, shade auto smooth. And then from top view, we can see scale it down a tiny bit there, and then I'll move it up just a bit. Okay, then we'll create the spoon. So press Shift A, add a circle, GX, go into edit mode, and then we'll scale it down. Press O to deactivate proportional editing, F to fill, and then E and extrude it up, and then S to scale up the top. And then with Control R, we'll add a loop cut. We'll go into face select, and with Alt, select the whole ring, and then press Alt E and extrude faces along normals. And then there we go. And then we'll add a bevel modifier with 4 segments. And then right click, shade smooth, and then Control 2 to add a subdivision. Go into front view, and then we'll place it in our cauldron. somewhere there. And then change your pivot point to 3D cursor, and then RZ. We'll rotate it a tiny bit away. Okay. Then we'll add our camera. So we'll go into front view and we'll press Shift A and then add a camera. And then press G and Y and move the camera back. Go into your output settings, your scene settings, and change the resolution to 1920 by 1920. Then press 0 on your numpad, or through your view menu, you can just go on view camera. We'll go into camera view. We'll move our camera up a bit with G and Z, and then R and X. Change the median point to, change the pivot point to median point, and then RX, and we'll aim it down just a tiny bit, and then get it nice into view. There, yeah, that looks awesome. Now we'll select the whole object, and then press R and Y, and we'll rotate it just a bit like that. And then we'll press R and Z, and we'll rotate it a tiny bit like that. And here you can just really pick an angle that you like yourself. You don't have to do exactly the way I do it. And then we'll press our liquid and we'll rotate it, because that's going to be a tiny bit more like this, and put it into a nice place. There, yeah, I love how that looks. Now I can place my camera a tiny bit better and just place our object nice in the center. There. Okay. Now we'll add our bubbles. So press Shift A, mesh, and add a UV sphere. S to scale it down, and then we'll go into top view. And then we'll place one here, and with G and Z move it up. And then we'll press Alt D to duplicate one, and Alt D another one. And then now we can go into our camera view, and we can kind of pick our positions of where we want them. Maybe this one is a bit smaller. G and Shift Z to move it around, and then we'll have that one there, and then one there. And here you can also just place them exactly the way you want them, and decrease or increase the sizing just as you want. You can add more than just 3 like I'm doing. Just play around a bit. Okay, I like that. Then we'll select them and we'll shade out of smooth. And now we'll start adding our background. So add a plane and then press RX90, and then we'll press G and Y and move it back. Tap to go into edit mode and then scale it up so it covers our whole background. I think I'm gonna change the angle of my camera a tiny bit. Just like that. Okay, yeah, that looks perfect. Just make sure your background plane covers your whole scene. Now we'll start adding our lights. So we'll go to our render settings. We'll change our render engine to cycles, device to GPU compute, viewport samples. I'll change it to 128. You can increase it or decrease it if you want to. And we'll change our render samples to 512. Then we'll press Z and we go into rendered view. And then we'll go to our camera view. And then press Shift A, light, and add an area light. Press period point to change your pivot point to 3D cursor. Press G and Z and move it up. And then go into your light settings. We'll change the shape to disk and the size to 2. And then we can press RX30 minus to move it back. And then we'll increase the power to maybe 80. Okay, then press Shift D, RZ120. And then we'll press R and X twice, and we're gonna aim this light from the bottom. GZ to move it back a tiny bit. And then Shift D, RZ 120, and then RXX, and we'll choose this one a bit from the side. GZZ and move it back a tiny bit. There, yeah, I like how that lighting looks. Then we'll add a light to our background as well to light that up a bit. So add another area light, press RX90, and then GY and move it towards your background. We'll change the shape to disk, the size to 3, and then maybe the power to 150. And then we'll go into our camera view and see how that looks. And then G and Z and move it back a tiny bit more behind our object. And then maybe change the power to 200. And then I'm gonna move it back also a tiny bit. There. Yeah, that looks awesome. And now we'll start with our materials. So we'll go to the shading tab and I'll go into camera view right here as well. And then I'll click on one of the cauldron pieces and then add a new material. We'll call it Cauldron. And then our base color is going to be 2A, 2A, 2A. And then I'm going to increase the roughness a tiny bit to 0.6. Now we're going to add some nodes. So we'll start with Shift A and then in search type for texture coordinate. And then we'll add Shift A search, we'll add a mapping. And then we'll add a noise texture. Move them a tiny bit to the side. And then we'll add a color ramp. And last, we'll add a bump. And we'll use all of these to create a bit of a texture on our cauldron. So the texture coordinate goes into the mapping goes into the noise texture goes into the color ramp goes into the height of the bump, and then the bump normal goes into our normal in there. There we go. So we can see that we have a bit of a texture. So now we'll change our color ramp to B-spline, and I'm going to move this about a tiny bit to the right, so maybe 0.55. And then we'll add another color and we'll move that all the way to the right. We'll change this one to 0.75, and then the one all the way to the right, I want to just turn that one black as well. Now we can change the roughness of this a tiny bit, and we can increase the scale. And then we'll increase the scale quite a lot. I think maybe 150 could be nice. There we go. And then we can change the roughness to maybe 0.6. There. Yeah, I think that looks really nice. Okay, so now I selected cell number 3. So now I'll select all the other cells in the list. And then as last, I'll select cell number 3. And then with Control L and M, I'll link all the materials. Make sure that all of your fractures have gotten the material. I see that this one hasn't. So I'll select it and then select another one with holding Shift and then press Control L and M to link it. So now they all have the same material and they look perfect. Okay, then we'll go to our layout because it's going to be a bit easier to see. Then we'll select the ring here and we'll add a nice gold material. The color for our gold is going to be E79932. We'll change the metallic all the way to 1 and decrease the roughness to 0.3. And then we'll select all the other items, all the other objects that are also going to be gold, and then select the gold ring last, and then press Ctrl L and M to link those materials. Then we'll add our wood material to this there, and we'll just call that wood, and just change our base color to 6A3300, and then I might increase the roughness a tiny bit to 0.8. Yeah, that looks perfect. Okay, then we'll add our glow here, and a new material, we can call it glow. And our base color is going to be CCE7A3. And then we're going to add some emission to it because it looks nice if it's a bit glowy. So scroll down to emission, and then our emission color is 30D015. And we'll make our emission strength 20. Yeah, that looks perfect. Add a nice color to our background. Add a new material, call it background. Then we'll change our base color to D594C4. If you don't like these colors, feel free to change them. You can make your liquid purple or red, whatever you want. Okay, now we'll go and change the color of our bubbles and give them a nice effect. So we'll go to the shading tab here, select one of the bubbles, and then we'll press New. Delete your principled BSDF, and then press Shift A S and add a mix shader. And then we'll connect that one to the material output. Then we'll add a transparent BSDF, and we'll add an emission. And then we'll connect those to the mix shader. Just like that. And then we'll change our emission color to 74FF4D and the strength to something silly like 45 maybe. Make it real glowy. Now we're gonna add a layer weight. So press Shift A and then search layer weight there, and we'll add another color ramp. And then that one goes there, and then we'll add connect our color ramp to our mix shader. And then we'll change these to a B-spline there, and we'll add another color there, and we'll move that one to the right and then change it to black. There we go. And then now if we go into rendered view, you can see that we have the bubble effect. So now we can play around a bit with our color ramp to make it exactly the way we want. So here you can see how it changes. So I might want this a bit closer. There. Just play around a bit until you get the effect you like. And I notice now that there's a double circle in there. So instead of the layer weight Fresnel, we want to connect the facing there. And then we'll change that a tiny bit. And yeah, I think I like how that looks. Then we'll go back to layout. And then we'll go into our world settings and we'll give it a nice world color. And that is going to be E398C3. And then there's our piece. Now all we have to do is render. Thank you for joining me in this tutorial. If you found any part of it unclear or you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comment section. If you decide to share your artwork on Instagram, please tag me. I'd love to see your results. If you found this tutorial helpful, consider supporting the channel by subscribing and liking the video. And remember, practice makes perfect, so go ahead and experiment with the skills you've gained. Thank you for watching and good luck.